What's going on? What's going on, everybody? This is Dana Pope Jr., Master Executive 8. And today, we're going to be talking about how to overcome the analysis of paralysis. And this is important when it comes to decision making. And as you all may or may not know, my whole purpose, my first mission for being here is to make good decisions and work hard to create stability for myself and others. And one of the ways that we can do that, you know what, guys? Give me 1 second. I'm going to set up my recorder because I want to make an article out of this to put on my website. All right, let's start that over. So, this is Dana Polk Jr., Master Executive 8. Today is February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. The time is 21:06 or 9:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we are going to be talking about how to overcome paralysis of analysis. And as you know, this is important because as a good decision maker, sometimes you can get caught up in the information and never make a decision. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This definitely applies if you're 8 or if you're a 7. It will pretty much apply to anybody, but I believe that these two numbers are the types that may have it most. And the only reason I say that is because the dark side of the executive is not making a decision or being aloof or being laid back and not executing. So this is definitely going to you 8s and also you 7s who are highly intellectual. I got a bunch of 7s in, I'll say 2 in specific, that are in important places in my chart. So I know that sometimes as an intellectual, actually as an analyzer, sometimes I can overanalyze and never make a decision. So I've been doing pretty well with that lately. However, I found myself today kind of slipping back in there. So I said, you know what? I need a system. I need a system for overcoming the paralysis of analysis. I will say one of my best systems that I have been doing so far is simply the Nike quote, like just do it and figure it out as you go. I'm about to go into a bunch of steps, but just this one step right here will help you. Whatever it is that you want to do, just take that first step and just keep stepping and figure it out as you go, so that you know that no matter what, you're moving forward. You'll figure it out along the way. Just keep stepping and analyze as you go. Okay? So let's get into this. Let's talk about what the analysis of paralysis is. I'm going to give you guys a story that talks about this paralysis of analysis, and it has a good lesson at the end. So we're not going to drag this out too long. I wanted this to be quick, and I want you to be able to use this system to overcome the paralysis of analysis. So let's continue. So there's a fable about the fox and the cat. So in this story, these two animals are having a discussion about how they're going to escape these hunters when they come. So there's a fox and a cat. So the fox, he is bragging about how many different ways he has to avoid or escape the hunters. The cat admits to only having one way to escape the hunters. So the hunters finally arrive. The cat climbs in the tree. Now the fox, he begins to analyze all of the ways to escape that he knows. But because he has so many choices, he is unable to decide which way would be the best. And because he was stuck in that paralysis of analysis, he was caught by the hunter's dogs. So, that story is a perfect illustration of the phenomenon of the analysis. The paralysis of analysis, or in a definition's sake, it is the inability to act or decide due to overthinking available alternatives or possible outcomes. Mind you, these outcomes are possible. A lot of the times we'll play outcomes through that we don't even know are possible or not because we haven't done anything. You know what I'm saying? And data. So what I want to show y'all today is how the paralysis of analysis will affect our production and our development and how we can overcome it. So what is the analysis paralysis? It is an anti-pattern. It is the state of overthinking or overanalyzing a situation so much that a decision or action is never taken. It is the effect of paralyzing the outcome. Excuse me, y'all. Let me get something to drink real quick. A person who's experiencing the paralysis of analysis, they get so lost in processing all of the information and evaluating the various data that they need to make a decision that they literally become unable to act. It's almost like a food coma. Like, have you ever ate so much food that you couldn't move, you couldn't think? All of your energy was spent digesting all of this food that you brought in to the point to where you had no energy to do anything else. So the question is, why do we overthink decisions? So to understand that, the first thing that we need to do is actually look at the decision-making process. So there is a psychologist. His name is Herbert Simon. And he talks about the two ways that we make decisions. So the first one, some of us are what's called satisfice. These people, they select the first option that meets their needs, or they pick an option that seems to address most of the needs. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have, not the other end of the spectrum, but on the other side, you have the maximizer. The maximizer never settles for the available solution, but they'll keep looking for other and better alternatives. So, of these two groups, the maximizers, they're the ones who are prone to prolonging decision making in hopes to find a better solution, whether that be an offer or a deal, and they'll be the ones most likely to suffer from analysis paralysis. And just a side note, they actually have studies that have proven a negative correlation between maximizing and happiness, and a positive correlation between maximizing and depression, and perfectionism and regret. So, some of us, we just want to avoid failure, which is why we really overthink. We're trying to avoid taking action because we're afraid to fail. So when expected to act or make a decision, we'll use overanalyzing as a means to prolong or to delay our actions in the fear of making a wrong choice or decision. So there's also something called choice overload. This is another thing that we can fall victim to. And this happens when we have a lot more data available. So when we have so much data available, it'll make it harder for us to process it. In fact, you have a threshold. So once you take in so much data and it meets your threshold, your brain's ability to process information, it starts to decline. And it declines to the point to where you literally are paralyzed and you can't make a decision. So this phenomenon was researched by Sheena Linger, and she's from Columbia University. See, she did this thing called the jam experiment. And the jam experiment was created to observe our effect on choice and to observe our decision-making process. And when I say jam, I am talking about like the type of jam that you will make a peanut butter and jam sandwich with, or something that you would just spread, something that you would spread over your bread or something. So the experiment was set up at a booth in a specialty store. So the customers at any time would be able to sample from 24 different jam varieties or 6 different jam varieties. So the first observation, which the selection would, she first observed which, her first observation was basically going to be which, whether it was the 24 or the 6, which one would attract more attention. And of course, more customers went to the booth that had more varieties. But there was a difference. Although there were more varieties, only 3% of those people actually bought the jam afterwards. So of the people that stopped at the 6 different jam varieties, 30% of them actually bought after sampling. All right, you know what? I'm going to have to fix this later. But anyway, so basically the research proved that we're attracted to anything that offers a greater selection. However, because of all of the choices, almost like the more choices you have, the harder it is to make a decision. To the point to where you might not even make a decision. You might not buy anything. So even though the experiment aimed at the investigation of consumer behavior, those findings translated into product development as well. So most of the time when we're making decisions, we collect all of this data. You know, we make these unnecessary decisions, and then we get paralyzed by the amount of information that we have. And like I said, you could consider that like a food coma. You know what I'm saying? So, there are 3 ways that paralysis analysis typically manifests itself. The first way is the planning phases of a project become unnecessarily long. Meaning you just spend all your time planning and never executing. Then you have these information gathering sessions to where you're like, I need more information in order to make a decision. So I'm going to spend hours upon hours, days upon days, months upon months, however long it is that you spend gathering information. Then the third way that paralysis analysis typically manifests itself in people's life is you're developing the product, but the movement is very slow. and it's very dragged out and long, like to the point to where it's just not making sense anymore. So let's talk about the 5 ways that we can overcome the paralysis of analysis. The first one is to prioritize your decisions. All the decisions that we have to make are not important. And most of the time, we make decisions that are not important, the most important. Basically majoring in the minors and never getting anything done, actually. So, if we're treating all of our decisions like they're the same and that they have the same impact on our work, that can lead us to a paralysis of analysis. So the first step is to basically define your priorities. What decisions that you need to make need to be made now, and what are decisions that you need to make that could be made later. So an easy way to do this is whatever decision you're about to make, decide how important. I want you to write down these 4 questions. And whatever that decision is, I want you to run it through the system. The first thing I want you to ask yourself is, how important is this decision? The second thing I want you to ask yourself is, will the outcome of this decision affect the next immediate stage of the product development? Then the last decision, or the third question is, do you have to make the decision now? Hey, close that door for me. Got the big man with me today, y'all. So, do you have to make the decision now? Then the last question I want you to ask yourself is, what could go wrong based on the decision that we made? Alright? So I want you to write those 4 questions down, and I want you to run that decision through those 4 questions. The next thing I want you to do, I want you to determine, I want you to determine the goal for making each decision. Make sure that that decision has some sort of end goal to it. Because your inability to decide usually isn't a fear of failure or too much choice. Because those 2 things is kind of immediately what my mind goes to. And not to say that that's not the case, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we just don't know why we need to make that decision at all. So knowing why and clearly defining the goals for making that decision will make it easier to pick from the available alternatives. This will also make it easier to see what should be prioritized and what should not be. So, just for example, you have to choose between implementing a very complex feature of something that requires like a slow and a tedious development process versus an alternative that may be like less sophisticated. So what you could do is So what you could do is you could begin collecting your data, try to predict which one will offer you the best prospect for the future, but keep in the back of your mind that that your goal is to ship this product as fast as possible. So whether this other alternative way is less sophisticated or not, you will basically be moving forward faster than if you're collecting all this data trying to make a decision. What I would suggest is that you do both. Start taking that action on the front end, and then on the back end, work on the things that are more tedious and that take more time. You know what I'm saying? And that's where this next step comes into, and this is breaking the decisions down into smaller steps. Because the brain does this thing called flight or flight. with basic fight or flight. Basically, where if you give it too much, it's going to do two things. It's going to try to fight through it. It's going to flight. But if it's something that's never done before, or if it's too much, if it's too out, you got to make it small and bite-sized so that your brain can handle it. You know what I'm saying? So instead of trying to make a decision in one step, break it down into smaller actions. You know what I'm saying? Shift your attention from one big decision to breaking that big decision down into small decisions. You know what I'm saying? That can help you make your progress, like I was saying before, so you can free yourself from this paralysis of trying to make this big decision. The next thing is to forget perfection. And this is huge, man, because especially if you have any 4s, if you have any 7s, I would say probably especially 4s, because 4s are like all about building order, structure. You know, sometimes it can be so rigid. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can be trying to be so perfect that you never make a decision. So, and you know, unless this decision is like life altering, then it doesn't need perfection. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's something you want to do, whatever it is that, whatever the decision is that will get you moving. So say you want to, I don't know, you want to start an online business. You know what I'm saying? You want to be a YouTuber. You know what I'm saying? You know what you should do? You know what you should do right after you get off this? Go on YouTube and just make your first video. I don't care what it is. Make a name up. Or look, just start doing the video and then give it a title afterwards. But just start. That's all I'm saying. Just start. You'll figure it out along the way. I promise you. I promise you. If you start and you continue, you will figure this stuff out along the way. I promise you, because I'm figuring it out along the way. But I know that I can't stop. You know what I mean? I know that I have to keep moving forward. Like I've already made it up in my mind that no matter what, every day I'm making a video that I want to uplift and inspire somebody with. That's like my intention. Now, my intention has been more crystallized now as I've been doing it, you know, because I'm getting more familiar with my numbers and the DNA that make up me. So I know that my first mission is at 8449. That is my life optimization chart based on the 4 core numbers in my chart. And that means my first mission in life is to make good decisions and to work hard. Let me just break the numbers down to y'all. Make good decisions, 8. Then work hard, 4. To create stability, 4. For others and myself, 9. That's my mission. So I had to figure that out along my way. Now I had it, you know what I'm saying, but had to crystallize. So I'm figuring stuff out along the way and I'm not stopping. Next. Hold on. Every decision that you make is going to have a downside anyway. So don't let that keep you from moving forward. And the last thing is to put some pressure on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like the example I just used. The pressure on myself is that if 24 hours has not passed and I had not made a video, I feel like I've let myself down. Because in my mind, the best that I can be is showing up every day with on my best. So that's my intention. So you might be a person who works. So just an example, right? My ex, she works very well under pressure. So there were certain times to where, for whatever reason, like beforehand, well, it was actually due a lot to me. But anyway, let me just say that she worked very well when she had a close deadline. Like it was almost like she worked better under pressure. You know what I'm saying? So, you may be one of those people like that to where you need that pressure. So, hey, you might want to set your deadlines closer. You know, you might want to put more pressure on yourself so that you can get the best out of yourself. It all depends on you. However, I will say you should have some sort of deadline, some sort of pressure, and it should be close and not too far out to the point to where you can just let yourself go. So you make it clear that the pressure cooker is exactly what you need. You know what I mean? So just to summarize everything that we just talked about, the inability to make a decision due to overthinking the available alternatives or possibilities or data is the analysis of paralysis. Project delays, exhausting project planning sessions, you know what I'm saying, all that gathering of unnecessary data and the slow movement through the production stages, these are all the main causes of the analysis paralysis. So to avoid it, we're going to wrap this up with this. To avoid the analysis of paralysis, we want to differentiate decisions by importance. We want to break them down into smaller steps. And then we want to put a healthy amount of pressure on ourselves. And hey, if you got a team, put some pressure on them too. Matter of fact, so I still have a online Shopify store, which I rebranded and I'm relaunching it, and I'm working on that too. But when I first had my store, one of my first stores, I had a VA that was working for me, and I remember when I was about to make a change, and I wasn't making that many sales, so the pressure was on her. And when I say maybe like a couple of days later, I had brought in like my first big customer. The guy from Nigeria, he was buying all of these mosquito repellent electronic USB like killers. Like it was these mosquito killers like that, you know, they were flying, they would get shocked at, but it was like you could charge it with a USB. So anyway, he was buying those and like I think some headphones and like some chargers. He was placing orders of like $300 and $400 at a time. So like that only happened once she got that pressure on her. You know what I'm saying? So depending on who you are, pressure will help you. You know what I'm saying? So and that was just an example of putting some pressure on my team. But anyway, guys, that's it. I didn't want to make this too long. I don't want to make this too complicated. When y'all go through these steps, move through these steps. If you got to, give yourself 15 minutes to even do this. You know, say, hey, I'm going to take 5 minutes to run this decision through this process, and then I'm going to move. You know what I'm saying? Let's not get stuck. All right? It's your boy, Dana Polk Jr., Master Executive 8. My mission: to help you make good decisions and to work hard to create stability for myself and you as well. So I'll see you guys on the next show. Signing off.